They told you money rewards the ones who grind, that fortune crowns the exhausted, that sweat and sleepless nights are the sacred price of abundance. You believed it because everyone did. Parents, teachers, entire civilizations built altars to that idea. Factories echoed with devotion. Overtime became ritual, the worn-down soul, proof of loyalty. Work harder, earn more, the mantra carved into generations. Yet beneath that chant hides a deeper silence, a truth almost forbidden. Effort alone does not summon wealth. Imagine for a moment that money is not responding to your labor at all, but to your signal, to the vibration you carry when you act, speak, breathe. What if prosperity moves like a wave, resonating only with certain tones of being? When you match that tone, it finds you effortlessly, as a song finds its echo. This isn't fantasy, it's the meeting point where ancient wisdom nods to quantum insight. Observation, scientists discovered, alters outcome. Attention collapses probability into form. If the universe listens that closely, then your consciousness is not the passenger, it's the composer. You are not chasing money through matter. Matter is responding to your frequency. And once you glimpse that, you cannot unsee it. The moment the recognition lands, every paradigm built on exhaustion begins to crumble. So let's walk further, beyond the factory walls and the myth of toil, into the invisible architecture of wealth itself, where energy answers resonance and abundance becomes less about effort, more about embodiment. The illusion begins to dissolve right where the last truth left off, in that space between effort and energy, between doing and being. You may start to feel it already, the quiet recognition that the world's machinery runs on stories, and one of its loudest stories has been the worship of struggle. When you peel back that layer, you see the architecture beneath, invisible, yet more real than the factory floor. Society constructed monuments to sweat because it couldn't measure frequency. It built entire economies on output because it didn't yet understand the inner field that precedes all creation. So we became disciples of exhaustion, measuring our worth by depletion. But here's the deeper pattern. Every civilization carries its blind spot. For ours, it was the unseen architecture of wealth, the energetic latticework beneath the numbers, the emotional current beneath the currency itself. The ancients hinted at it in myths of golden light and divine flow. Modern physics, in its quiet equations, begins to circle the same mystery, that energy, attention, and form are not separate forces, but one continuous field expressing itself through different densities. Think of value not as something you create from nothing, but as something you reveal by resonance. When you align with what feels alive, inspired, whole, you amplify coherence. People feel it. Opportunities orbit it. Money, that shimmering abstraction of human trust, rushes toward stability of signal. It wants to flow through open circuits, not blocked ones. And yet, we were trained to close, to clench, to chase security by tightening our fists. That tension doesn't just live in your hands, it radiates through your nervous system, through every decision. It says, I don't have enough. And the field, being the mirror that it is, replies, so be it. Now imagine flipping that current. Imagine wealth as an electromagnetic pulse that responds to openness. Every time you breathe deeply, soften your chest, unclench your jaw, you're tuning the instrument. You're sending out a new signal, one that whispers, I am ready to circulate. The universe doesn't withhold. It simply waits for coherence. Look around at those who seem to attract abundance with grace. They may not even know they're doing it, but their energy tells the truth before their words do. They're not pushing, they're permitting. They've stopped confusing motion with creation. Instead of grinding against resistance, they've synchronized with rhythm. Here's the paradox: the less you force, the faster things align. because alignment is efficiency at its highest form. It wastes nothing. Not your time, not your energy, not your soul. It's the invisible architecture that money listens to long before you see the numbers change. You may start to recall moments in your own life when this architecture revealed itself, a job offer that appeared out of nowhere, a debt that cleared unexpectedly, a door that opened the instant you stopped knocking. Those weren't coincidences. They were reflections of resonance, proof that when you inhabit openness, reality rearranges itself to meet you there. And yet, this isn't an invitation to abandon effort. It's an invitation to sanctify it, to let work become a channel, not a cage, to see every action as vibration, every word, a waveform shaping outcome. In that awareness, effort becomes devotion, and devotion, when aligned, births abundance. So let's keep walking. Let's go deeper into the physics of it, into the very frequencies that govern how consciousness and matter intertwine. Because when you understand that dance, money stops being a mystery and starts becoming music. You can feel the music starting to rise, that hum beneath reality, that pulse beneath thought. It's subtle at first, like the air shifting before a storm, and then it becomes undeniable. That's where we step next into the physics of frequency. Consider this: every atom vibrates. Every particle oscillates in patterns so small the mind can barely conceive them. Quantum experiments, humble, strange, poetic, show us that matter isn't solid at all. It's potential waiting for attention. When an observer looks, the wave collapses. Possibility becomes presence. Reality crystallizes from the sea of maybe. So what happens when you, the observer, bring emotion into that act of observation, when attention is charged with belief, with gratitude, with trust? It's as if consciousness sculpts probability. You're not bending the laws of physics, you're participating in them. Observation isn't passive, it's generative. You've heard the phrase, energy flows where attention goes. It's truer than most realize. In the quantum field, attention behaves like gravity. What you notice gains weight. What you ignore fades back into mist. And money, that symbol of exchanged energy, is pulled by the same invisible gravity. It drifts toward coherence, toward clear, unwavering focus, infused with emotion. When you observe scarcity, counting lack like beads on a rosary, you reinforce that timeline. The universe nods and says, more of this. When you observe abundance, not as fantasy, but as frequency, you begin to tune your receiver to the signal already broadcasting it. The universe nods again, but this time in resonance. You might think this is abstract, but notice how your body responds. Scarcity tightens, abundance expands. The contraction is physical, measurable. Your breath shortens, your field weakens, your mind narrows when you worry. The expansion feels like exhale space opening in your chest, a signal broadcasting without static. That physical sensation is not metaphor, it's frequency embodied. Wallace Wattles called it the thinking substance. You might call it the quantum field, or simply life itself. The label doesn't matter. The point is, there is something intelligent woven through existence, responsive to consciousness. Not personal in a sentimental way, but precise in a mechanical way. Like tuning forks that vibrate together across a room, your consciousness and the field seek synchronization. When you think wealth with conviction, not desperation, not fantasy, but embodied certainty, the field begins to arrange itself around that tone. It's not instant gratification, it's resonance building momentum. The physics of frequency is patient, like water carving stone. This is where humility is essential. You're not manifesting reality by willpower. You're aligning with a law that predates thought. Quantum physics doesn't worship you. It invites you to participate consciously. The wave becomes particle. The possible becomes actual, through the quality of attention you bring. Imagine your thoughts as oscillations. Each belief carries amplitude. Each emotion colors its wavelength. Gratitude is long and smooth, easy to ride. Fear is jagged, erratic, breaking connection again and again. The clearer your signal, the more efficiently reality organizes around it. That's not magic, that's coherence. And coherence feels like flow, like synchronicity, like life responding before you even ask. It's not that you stop working, it's that your work starts working for you. You're no longer pushing matter uphill. You're surfing the waveform of aligned energy. Friends, this is the quiet revolution, not in markets or banks, but in perception itself. The moment you stop seeing wealth as something out there and start experiencing it as vibration in here, the bridge between the two worlds collapses. You and reality are the same field in conversation. So ask yourself, what song are you playing into the field right now? What note of consciousness are you sustaining? Because the physics of frequency is always listening, always responding, always composing your next moment based on the vibration you hold most faithfully. You may start to sense it that the field isn't judging you, just mirroring you. The music we spoke of in the last breath, it plays back whatever note you strike. That's the essence of the mirror principle, and it changes everything. Reality, in its quiet brilliance, behaves like polished glass. Every thought, every tone of emotion, every subtle signal you send becomes reflected in form. The universe doesn't punish or reward, it reflects. And reflection is mercilessly honest. If you radiate fear, you'll find a world full of reasons to stay afraid. If you radiate trust, that same world begins to soften, to shimmer differently. This is the hardest truth for most seekers to accept, because it dissolves the illusion of luck. Nothing just happens. It resonates. What you see outside is the geometry of your inner broadcast drawn in visible lines. That's the mirror principle. Think of your consciousness like a lighthouse, its beams sweeping across the field. Each emotion colors the light. Scarcity casts a gray fog. Abundance glows gold. The ships of opportunity navigate by that glow. They don't come because you chase them. They come because you guide them safely in. But here's where awareness becomes power. Most people don't know they're broadcasting at all. They live in reaction tuned to fear-based frequencies inherited from generations of survival. Their inner dialogue is a loop of worry and proof, endlessly reinforcing itself. I never have enough becomes not just belief, but magnetic instruction. To break that loop, you must first see the mirror. You must realize the pattern not as failure, but as feedback. The moment you catch yourself thinking lack and recognize it as a signal, not truth, you reclaim authorship. The reflection doesn't define you, it informs you. Now consider this, mirrors don't distort, perception does. If your internal state is contracted, even abundance will look like threat. You'll sabotage opportunities, mistrust generosity, reject flow because it feels foreign. The mirror only ever reveals your stance. So the work isn't to fix the reflection, it's to relax the stance. Take a moment now. Notice how your body feels when you think, "There's enough for me." The muscles soften, the breath deepens. That subtle release is a shift in transmission. You've just changed your signal, and because the field is immediate, the reflection will soon follow. Not as fireworks, but as small alignments, a conversation that goes better than expected. A payment that arrives right on time. A stranger's kindness appearing from nowhere. It's the same mirror, responding to a new vibration. This is why judgment and gratitude can't coexist. Judgment contracts the field. Gratitude expands it. When you give thanks, you're not performing a ritual, you're widening the mirror's angle, allowing more light in. You're saying, I see the beauty already here, and the universe. Hearing that tone magnifies it. Now let's get practical. You can measure your mirror moment by moment. Ask yourself, what am I experiencing right now? Peace or panic, flow or friction? Whatever you find, don't resist it. Observe it like a scientist of your own soul. Every emotion, every outcome is feedback from the field saying, here's what you're currently tuned to. That's all. No guilt, no blame, just awareness. And awareness, practiced consistently, becomes power. Because once you know the mirror's law, you stop trying to polish the glass and start tending the light within it. So as we step forward, keep this image in your mind life as a hall of mirrors, each reflecting your frequency in shape and story. Change the frequency, and the hall rearranges itself. It has to. That's the law. And the law is mercifully consistent. Next, we'll enter the body's laboratory where this reflection begins in sensation and breath. Because abundance doesn't start in thought. It starts in the nervous system. That's where frequency finds form and where wealth learns to breathe through you. And so we descend from the reflective glass into the flesh, into the circuitry where energy becomes sensation, where thought translates into charge. Because the mirror may show the image, but the nervous system sets the tone. This is the body's laboratory, the mechanics of abundance. You've felt it before the contraction of scarcity. It starts as tension behind the ribs, a small knot of uncertainty that whispers, not enough. That whisper tightens your breath, pulls your shoulders inward, shortens your gaze until all you can see are obstacles. It's not just emotional, it's electrical. Scarcity collapses your field, drains voltage from your presence, and the world responds in kind. Abundance, on the other hand, expands. It widens perception, softens muscle, and sends a wave of coherence through every cell. That feeling of ease after a deep exhale, that's abundance beginning to speak. The electromagnetic field around your body, subtle, measurable, alive, grows stronger when you relax. You literally radiate further. Science calls it heart coherence. Mystics call it alignment. You can call it frequency, but the pattern is the same. Gratitude stabilizes it. Fear fractures it. Every thought creates a physiological ripple, and the sum of those ripples becomes your signal to the universe. Now pause and test this in real time. Think of something you love, a person, a moment, even the smell of rain. Notice what happens. Your chest opens. The field expands. That's not imagination. It's physics meeting physiology. You're charging your system with congruence, and congruence is the signature of abundance. Money, opportunities, creative flow, they all follow the same current. They're drawn to systems that can hold charge without leaking it through anxiety or resistance. That's why wealth isn't random. It's regulatory. Your nervous system is the transmitter, your emotions the waveform, your beliefs the settings of amplitude. This is why so many people chase abundance with clenched fists and leave exhausted. They're trying to send a frequency through static. The message is distorted by fear. The field reads that as instability and reflects uncertainty right back, not as punishment, as calibration. The universe waits for coherence before it amplifies. So how do you cultivate it? Through practice so simple the mind almost dismisses it. Breathing, grounding, gratitude. Each breath is a tuning fork. Each moment of thankfulness resets your circuitry from panic to presence. Gratitude isn't sentimentality, it's a neurological override. It tells your entire system, we are safe. And safety is the gateway frequency through which abundance flows. Try it now. Inhale through the nose for 4 counts, exhale for 6. Let the body unclench, not because everything's perfect, but because you're choosing trust. Feel that subtle expansion. That's wealth preparing a landing strip. You may notice that ideas arise more easily in this state, sudden clarity. Creative sparks, intuitive nudges. That's because abundance consciousness isn't passive, it's catalytic. When the nervous system relaxes, energy once trapped in worry becomes available for creation. You become not just receptive, but directive, a conscious participant in the mechanics of manifestation. Here's the secret that often goes unsaid. Wealth consciousness begins in the body, not the bank account. You can't hold abundance mentally if your nervous system is coded for survival. The container leaks, but retrain the body, teach it safety, ease, gratitude, and your frequency stabilizes. The external must follow. Coherence always seeks reflection. In that stability, money ceases to be mystery or idle. It becomes current, one expression of energy among many, flowing where resistance ends. The heart becomes the switch. The breath becomes the code. And from that embodied understanding, we can move deeper still into the art of shifting frequency itself. Because awareness is one thing, but transformation is an act of practice. In the next layer, you'll learn to translate recognition into rhythm, to move from knowing abundance to being it, moment by moment. From the moment you feel that breath land, that quiet pulse of ease humming through your body, the work begins in earnest. Awareness was the doorway. Practice is the path. Because frequency doesn't shift through thought alone. It's trained through repetition, through rhythm, through lived signal. This is the art of shifting frequency. You begin by catching yourself in the act of scarcity. The mind says, I can't, or there's not enough. And instead of arguing, you observe, you pause, breathe, and soften. That pause interrupts the broadcast. In that single breath, you've changed the transmission from panic to presence. It's that simple and that sacred. The field listens to consistency more than intensity. You don't have to hold abundance perfectly. You only have to return to it often. Each return rewires the pattern. Each conscious moment of gratitude lays a new neural path and sends a clearer signal into the quantum weave of things. Remember, your reality isn't sculpted by rare moments of revelation. It's built from daily micro-vibrations, the 1,000 tiny alignments that accumulate into resonance. One breath of ease, one thought of enoughness, one act of generosity. Frequency is cumulative. When fear rises, don't fight it. Acknowledge it as a signal flare, not a verdict. Fear simply means your system has drifted off station. Breathe, ground, recalibrate. Ask yourself, what frequency would abundance choose right now? How would it move? Speak, decide, then act from that vibration even before evidence appears. This is how you collapse the gap between desire and embodiment. Some call it faith. Not blind belief, but vibrational endurance, the capacity to hold alignment before the external proof arrives. Faith is energetic stamina. It's staying tuned to the station of abundance when static fills the air. That persistence builds amplitude. The longer you hold coherence, the more powerful the reflection becomes. Here's a tangible exercise. For the next 7 days, every time you touch money, cash, card, even your phone app, pause and feel gratitude, not for what you have, but for what you're in relationship with. Treat money as a living current, an ally that responds to appreciation. You'll notice subtle shifts, delayed payments arrive. Ideas spark. Chance encounters open doors, not magic magnetism. And when scarcity thoughts whisper, it's not working, smile. You're hearing the static of an old station losing strength. Don't suppress it, out-broadcast it. Replace it's not working with it's calibrating, because it is. Every conscious redirection strengthens your field. This is also where surrender enters the equation. Surrender isn't giving up, it's tuning in. It's the moment you stop forcing outcomes and allow alignment to lead. When you release control, you free bandwidth for intuition to speak. You stop micromanaging the universe and start collaborating with it. You'll notice how much lighter this feels. Scarcity thinking is heavy. It demands proof, control, and endless explanation. Abundance thinking is spacious. It trusts sequence, timing, flow. In that openness, creativity blossoms. Ideas appear like constellations, forming new paths forward. That's how the shift happens, not through strain, but through alignment so stable that opportunities have no choice but to organize around it. The practice of shifting frequency isn't mystical performance. It's nervous system training. It's spiritual athletics. You're teaching your energy field to stay coherent under pressure, to choose expansion even when contraction beckons. Each choice builds resonance, and resonance rewrites reality. Soon, you'll stop thinking of abundance as a thing to reach. You'll feel it as a tone you return to again and again until it becomes the only station your heart can hear. And once you live from that state, action itself changes texture, effort turns to expression, doing becomes dancing, which is exactly where we go next, into the field where motion meets flow, where creation happens not by force but by resonance. You can feel it building, that subtle shift from practice to motion, from internal calibration to outer expression. Because once your frequency stabilizes, life begins to move with you. You no longer chase alignment, you become it. This is the field of flow, the law of resonant action. At first, you'll think nothing has changed. You'll still send emails, make calls, take meetings, clock hours, but everything will feel different. The strain that used to knot your stomach dissolves into quiet certainty. The panic that whispered, "What if it fails?" softens into "What if it flows?" You start realizing that the power wasn't in the push, but in the presence behind it. Flow is not passive, it's precision. It's the most efficient pattern the universe knows, effort stripped of resistance. When you act from alignment, time stretches, things fall into place faster, smoother, almost eerily synchronistic. That's not coincidence, it's coherence. The outer world mirrors the internal rhythm you've cultivated. You may remember times when you felt it, writing words that seemed to write themselves, conversations that unfolded like choreography, opportunities that arrived in perfect timing. That state isn't rare, it's natural. Flow is your default when fear is absent. What interrupts it is the mind's addiction to control, the belief that survival requires strain. But when your nervous system relaxes, the current carries you. Imagine a river. You can fight it, dig your paddle into the water, and exhaust yourself trying to steer against the current. Or you can orient your boat, release tension, and let the flow move you faster than you could ever row. That's resonant action movement in partnership with the field, not in defiance of it. Every inspired idea you act upon while aligned carries more voltage than 100 forced efforts. One aligned hour can accomplish what 40 misaligned hours cannot. Because energy, not time, measures creation. Energy imbued with coherence multiplies. Energy laced with doubt divides. Let's break it down practically. When an idea arises and feels alive, expansive, slightly thrilling, peaceful underneath, that's alignment speaking. When an idea feels heavy, anxious, obligatory, that's misalignment warning you. Learn to tell the difference. Alignment often feels like relief, disguised as excitement. Misalignment feels like friction disguised as urgency. You might think, but if I only act when it feels good, I'll never get anything done. That's a misunderstanding. Flow doesn't mean ease without motion. It means clarity without resistance. The tasks still exist, but your relationship with them changes. You move because you want to, not because you must. And that difference in tone alters every outcome. This is why some people seem to magnetize opportunities without burnout. Their secret isn't privilege or luck, it's resonance. Their energy speaks fluently to the field. I trust, I allow, I create. The field responds, orchestrating circumstances that match their signal. What looks like coincidence is simply harmonics in motion. Let's ground this deeper. Every decision you make carries a vibrational signature. Before taking any action, pause and ask, does this arise from fear or from flow? If fear, breathe, wait. If flow, move. That single distinction can recalibrate your entire life trajectory. Because aligned action doesn't chase outcome, it expresses truth. And truth always generates momentum. Here's the paradox most people miss. Flow requires discipline, not discipline of force, but discipline of faith. The willingness to stay tuned when nothing seems to happen, to trust that stillness is movement on subtler frequencies. You're learning to surf energy rather than wrestle matter, and that's mastery. Over time, you'll notice that life begins to organize itself around this rhythm. The right people appear, the right opportunities unfold. Sometimes at the very edge of logic, the struggle narrative dissolves, replaced by symphony. You realize you're not pushing reality, you're dancing with it, and in that dance, something ancient awakens. The old paradigm of hustle yields to the new paradigm of harmony. Wealth ceases to be something you chase. It becomes the music you play. Flow becomes faith made visible. Next, we'll explore the frequency that ensures the current never stagnates, the secret to keeping abundance alive, the rhythm of giving and circulation, where flow completes its circle and returns magnified. You can feel the current looping back, the momentum built from flow-seeking completion, because energy, by its nature, must circulate. What you give creates the channel through which more can move. This is the frequency of giving, the rhythm of circulation, the pulse that keeps abundance alive. Everything in nature gives. Trees exhale what you breathe, rivers release to the sea. The heart contracts not to hoard blood, but to send it forward, trusting its return. Wealth follows the same rhythm. When you give with openness, you're declaring to the field, I have more than enough to share. That declaration becomes signal, and the universe rushes to confirm it. But giving is subtle alchemy. It's not measured by amount, it's measured by frequency. If you give out of guilt, you anchor scarcity. If you give from overflow, you amplify abundance. The field reads intention, not transaction. The difference between obligation and offering is energetic tone. Many people misunderstand this. They think giving diminishes them. They say, I'll give when I have more. But the current doesn't wait for proof. It responds to pattern. You give to create the experience of abundance, not after it arrives. It's a frequency rehearsal, a way of saying, I trust the flow enough to participate in it. Start small. A smile, a word, a gesture, a moment of sincere gratitude counts as giving because gratitude circulates energy. It sends a wave outward that ripples back magnified. When you appreciate something, you anchor it more deeply in the field. You're literally stabilizing abundance by noticing it. Now consider the opposite complaint: resentment, withholding. These actions constrict the current. They say, I don't trust the return. The field mirrors that tone perfectly flow tightens. Opportunities stall. Synchronicities dry up. Not punishment, just physics. The universe is a perfect accountant of resonance. To stay in abundance, you must live as a conduit, not a container. Containers overflow and leak. Conduits stay fresh. This is why generosity feels electric. It recharges the giver and the receiver simultaneously. You've felt it, that rush of warmth after doing something kind with no expectation. That is the field rushing through you unobstructed. Giving also neutralizes fear. When scarcity whispers, hold tighter, generosity answers. There's more coming. Each act of giving rewrites the subconscious pattern of lack. You prove to your nervous system that safety doesn't come from possession, but from participation and flow. And participation breeds power. There's another layer: service. When your work becomes an offering, something that contributes to life itself, you plug directly into the source current. The universe expands through you. This is why those who create true value often prosper most effortlessly. Their frequency isn't "how can I get," but "how can I give?" That inversion of focus flips the energetic switch from gravity to magnetism. To sustain this, practice what I call the circle breath of abundance. As you inhale, imagine drawing energy from the field, all the support, love, and wealth that already exists. As you exhale, imagine sending that energy outward through your work, words, and presence. Inhale, receiving; exhale, giving. Keep the circle unbroken. This is not visualization, it's resonance training. When giving becomes your natural pulse, scarcity loses its argument. You no longer fear depletion because you've proven to yourself that the current always returns. The more you circulate, the stronger the flow becomes. Money moves, ideas multiply, connection deepens. It's the feedback loop of life itself. And so we arrive at the next frontier, not just personal abundance, but the evolution of consciousness that underlies it. Because once you master circulation, you begin to ascend frequencies from survival to security, to expansion, to contribution, a ladder hidden in plain sight, each rung a higher expression of wealth. Let's climb it together. The climb begins quietly. You won't hear trumpets or witness sudden miracles, at least not at first. What shifts is subtler perception, posture, presence. The way you meet the world changes, because every level of consciousness carries its own frequency, and every frequency shapes the form of wealth you can sustain. This is the ladder of conscious wealth. At the lowest rung lives survival consciousness, the vibration of just enough to not fall apart. It's the ancient rhythm of fear, the hum of must, need, can't. In this state, you don't think about creating, you think about escaping. Every decision contracts around safety. Your nervous system floods with cortisol. Your imagination shrinks, and even opportunities feel threatening. Survival consciousness can't see abundance not because it's blind, but because it's scanning for danger. One step higher is security consciousness. The air lightens, but fear still shadows it. Here you work to protect rather than to expand. You've built a little, and now you're guarding it. You tell yourself you're being responsible, but underneath, the energy still whispers, "Don't lose." This level feels safer, but it's still scarcity in disguise. The signal it broadcasts is preservation, not creation. And the field obliges things stabilize but rarely grow. Next comes comfort consciousness. The frequency here feels warm, familiar. You have enough to relax, to breathe, but comfort is deceptive. It lulls the spirit into maintenance mode. You begin to trade expansion for predictability, calling it peace when it's actually quiet stagnation. The current slows. The field mirrors neutrality, not loss, but no new life either. Comfort is the plateau where many settle, mistaking stillness for stability. But then something stirs. Curiosity wakes. You begin to sense that abundance is not an endpoint, but a living current. This is the emergence of expansion consciousness, where energy starts to move again. You realize that giving, investing, and risking are natural expressions of faith in flow. You begin to create not from fear, but from possibility. Money starts responding differently, arriving through unexpected channels, multiplying through ideas and alignment rather than sheer effort. Expansion consciousness feels exhilarating because it aligns with the law of growth, written into everything alive. But there's one more frequency beyond it, the summit of contribution consciousness. Here, wealth transcends personal orbit. You no longer see abundance as something to keep. You see it as something to conduct. You become a vessel, a node in the network of giving. The question changes from how much can I gain to how much good can I do? At this level, the field amplifies through you, not just around you. Money, opportunity, and support move effortlessly because you've ceased blocking the current with self-importance. You understand that circulation isn't moral duty, it's mechanical law. Contribution consciousness is abundance at its most refined frequency, the recognition that you and the source of all flow are not separate. And something extraordinary happens when you live there consistently. Gratitude stops being practice and becomes atmosphere. Work stops being strategy and becomes service. Wealth ceases to feel like achievement and begins to feel like breath. Continuous, automatic, inevitable. You create because creation is joy, and the universe rushes to assist. Look at the world through this lens and you'll see people everywhere vibrating at different rungs of this ladder. You'll recognize the scarcity field immediately, the tight jaw, the defensive tone. You'll recognize comfort's gentle plateau, safe but stagnant. And you'll feel the rare radiance of contribution consciousness, that effortless confidence that magnetizes without manipulation. The goal isn't to judge these levels, but to navigate them consciously, to notice when you drop into survival and climb gently back to expansion, to practice gratitude until it carries you into contribution. This ladder isn't linear, it's vibrational. You ascend it through awareness, through the willingness to choose expansion over contraction in each moment. When you live this way, wealth becomes more than currency. It becomes consciousness expressed through creation, kindness, and purpose. You begin to sense that your personal abundance is not separate from collective uplift, that every time you raise your frequency, you elevate the entire field. And that realization leads us to the final revelation that your frequency, multiplied by countless others awakening to the same truth, becomes a force capable of transforming the very fabric of the world. Let's explore that collective shift, where personal resonance becomes planetary evolution. You can feel it now, that gathering hum, that invisible symphony swelling through the collective. Every act of alignment, every personal shift in frequency, adds a note to the global resonance. What began as individual transformation becomes a planetary vibration. This is the collective field shift, because energy never stops at one body. The moment you change your internal signal, the field around you recalibrates. People near you feel calmer, more open, more magnetic, even if they can't explain why. Coherence spreads like fragrance through a crowded room. One person breathing in abundance becomes permission for others to exhale their fear. We often think change happens through systems, policies, revolutions, and yes, those matter. But consciousness moves first. The external follows the invisible current. Every paradigm shift in history began as a frequency shift, an idea, a belief, a new way of seeing. What's unfolding now is nothing less than the rewiring of the collective relationship to money, to energy, to worth itself. The old system thrived on scarcity because scarcity made people predictable. It taught you to earn your worth through struggle, to fear not having, to distrust the unseen. That frequency is fracturing. You can hear it in the restlessness rising around the world. People tired of chasing survival, aching to remember flow. They're not lazy, they're awakening. The new field is forming through them, through you. Every time you choose trust over fear, generosity over grasping, alignment over anxiety, You feed the grid of abundance that encircles humanity. This isn't metaphor. Think of it as quantum infrastructure consciousness organizing into coherence, one heartbeat at a time. The collective field behaves like water under sound. When enough tuning forks hum in harmony, the surface reorganizes, patterns emerge intricate, ordered, breathtaking. That's what's happening to us. Each person awakening to abundance sends ripples through the global current. When those ripples meet, they don't cancel, they amplify. So imagine this, a planet where wealth is not accumulation but circulation, where giving is not charity but natural motion, where work is not survival but expression. Imagine economies designed around resonance value flowing to where energy is most alive, not where fear is strongest. That world begins not in boardrooms, but in breaths, in small, private decisions to stay coherent when chaos tempts contraction. And yes, the old energy will resist. The systems built on scarcity will tremble. The mind will question. Can it really be this simple? But simplicity has always been the ultimate sophistication. The laws of resonance don't need belief to function. They simply respond to signal. As more of us tune to abundance, the old static loses power. You'll notice the change first in conversation, strangers kinder, synchronicities faster, then in communities collaboration replacing competition. Eventually, in systems wealth no longer hoarded, but circulated through contribution. It's already happening in subtle ways, people redefining success, companies shifting toward purpose, currencies emerging from cooperation rather than coercion. The collective field is learning to breathe again. You are part of that respiration. Every thought of gratitude, every act of trust, every creative offering adds oxygen to the world. You might not see the full effect, but the universe does. It measures in frequency, not fame. This is the new revolution, not one of force, but of frequency. Not rebellion, but remembrance. A remembering of who we are beneath the scarcity trance expressions of infinite abundance. Channels through which creation experiences itself. When you live this truth, you become more than a participant. You become a transmitter of the new world. You stop waiting for permission to thrive and start giving others permission to do the same. The collective field shift isn't coming. It's occurring now, through you, through all of us, one coherent heartbeat at a time. And as the wave builds, we move toward stillness, the final silence after the crescendo, the space where the echo of abundance becomes embodied truth. Let's arrive there together, softly. In gratitude, in the wind down, the wave settles now, not ending, but expanding beyond hearing. The hum becomes quiet, like the breath between heartbeats. That's where integration lives, in the stillness after revelation, when the concepts dissolve and what remains is embodiment. This is our wind down. Let yourself exhale. You've climbed the ladder, followed the current, tuned your frequency, and glimpsed the invisible architecture behind all motion. And maybe you've noticed something subtle along the way, that money was never the point. It was the mirror, a tool, a teacher, a reflection of resonance. Every dollar, every opportunity, every moment of struggle simply echoed the tone you carried within. Now you know the mechanics. The field responds not to effort, but to energy, not to fear, but to faith. And faith, as you've seen, is not belief without evidence, it's presence without proof. It's the willingness to embody abundance before it appears, to act as though the current is already carrying you. When you live from that knowing, everything simplifies. Work becomes expression, not burden. Giving becomes instinct, not strategy. Gratitude becomes gravity, the force that keeps you anchored in flow. You begin to notice wealth everywhere, in sunlight, through a window, in laughter that lingers, in the small synchronicities that whisper, you're aligned. So take one final breath with me. Inhale possibility, exhale resistance. Feel the air move through you like currency arriving, circulating, returning. That's the rhythm of abundance, the quiet promise of the universe repeating itself through your lungs. Tomorrow, the world will look the same, yet it won't be, because you've changed your signal. You've remembered that wealth is not something you chase, it's something you allow. It's not a number, it's a note, a frequency you can return to anytime you choose. Carry that note with you. Let it color your words, your work, your relationships. Let it remind you that abundance is not achieved, it's embodied. And as you live it, you become the proof, the presence, the quiet revolution the world has been waiting for. Thank you for walking this path, for listening with your whole being, for remembering that flow is your nature. May every breath affirm your alignment, and every act extend the frequency of abundance further into the field we all share.